Your opponent has the nut hand of 1-for-1 Dandelion. In this situation, Effect Veiler is effective, while Maxx is devastating. I'll give you your opponent activates 1-for-1, discards Dandelion as a cost. You chain your Maxx, your opponent's forced to bring out that monster from your deck from 1-for-1, then 2 tokens come on board, giving you the ability to draw 2 cards. After that, they're stuck with a Spore or a Glow Bulb on field with 2 tokens. They're forced to stop, or you get to draw 3 cards altogether. So with that, Maxx is extremely good. On the other hand, when they 1-for-1 Dandelion and they get the 2 cards, or they get Spore and the 2 tokens, and they synchro for Formula Synchron, you could Effect Veiler that to let them not draw, but that just an equal out, and you actually minus from that. So in that situation, it's not terrible, but it's not great. And say for example, they go 1-for-1 Dandelion, they make Formula Synchron, then Hyper Librarian, then they synchro to Arcanite Magician. When you Effect Veiler that won't, like their Arcanite Magician is rendered useless, but they already got too many pluses off of that. So Effect Veiler isn't too great in that situation, but it still does something. So right here, Maxx wins like a 80 to 20% type thing. Your opponent normal summons a Debris Dragon. You have 2 options. So the Debris Dragon chooses, say for example, the ideal target of Dandelion. Then you would chain Maxx, giving you a draw for this when when the Dandelion special summon, a draw from when they synchro summon, and a draw from Dandelion's tokens coming out. So that's 3 cards altogether for a Maxx that your opponent has to debate whether it's worth making or not. So say for example this is their only resource. If you Maxx, they're forced to do that and you get many cards in return, and if they don't win this turn, you have a great comeback. Other example, say you have very low life points, and say that Black Rose Dragon or that Ancient Fairy Dragon is enough to break the game, and you can't Maxx this right now, because if you Maxx you'll have a lot of cards, but you'll lose this turn. That's when Effect Veiler comes into play. So Effect Veiler, their Debris Dragon, they're stuck with a 1000 attack point monster on board. He doesn't do anything. Next turn you attack over it. Everything's great. So in this situation, it's equal. Maxx and Effect Veiler are both very effective against Debris Dragon. In this situation, your opponent has been playing as if they have Gores in their hand this whole time. You've been hitting small points of damage, whittling down your opponent. You have game on board in the form of 3 or 2 monsters, so 1 monster hitting your opponent won't be enough for game. So say you attack with your first small monster. After that, your next attack will be game. You drop Maxx before the attack, forcing them to play Gores, otherwise they'll lose. You get a +2 because Gores is special summoned, and then it gets a token, so you draw 1 for Gores, 1 for the token. That situation is very good. Effect Veiler in that way, you cannot activate Effect Veiler on your turn, and you can't even do it on your opponent's like standby phase or battle phase or anything of that sort. So right here, against Gores, even though it's a small situation like that, you will get that +1 when you attack and try to go for a game. Let's wrap up thoughts for Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler also is a bonus to the plant deck or any other deck that it plays, because it is very synergetic with Blackluster Soldier and Void of the Beginning. Before, Raikou was a very popular light monster before this guy was unbanned, but now Raikou is losing a lot of popularity. Since we can only play 1 Debris Dragon, 1 pot of Avarice, you don't want to mill that 1 pot of Avarice, it becomes too risky. So right now, Effect Veiler has a very high synergy with Blackluster Soldier and Void of the Beginning, and is very searchable off of Sangan. So that is 1 plus of Effect Veiler. A downside of Effect Veiler is it has weaknesses in the form of Book of Moon and enemy controller. So say your opponent normal summons Tour Guide of the Underworld. You activate Effect Veiler on the Tour Guide, they chain Book of Moon, they still get their search off. Or if they chain enemy controller, they take your monster and they get their search off. One downside to Effect Veiler. Also, a big thing is Effect Veiler only happens during your opponent's main phase 1 and main phase 2. No other time will it be effective. And the last thing that's positive about Effect Veiler is that it works with 1-for-1. So say you do need that light monster and you do want that 1-for-1 target that you're already out of your Spore and you're out of your Glow Bulb, Effect Veiler is a valid target and it is a tuner. That is the upside of Effect Veiler. With Maxx, Maxx has very high synergy with Debris Dragon. So for example, Debris Dragon can be normal summoned, it can be target Maxx, and now you're allowed to have the option to bring out Orient Dragon. Before, that option wasn't available. If you target a effect veiler, so you have a Debris Dragon and an effect veiler on board, that board's quite awkward. You can't really do anything with that board. You have to mind control level 3 to make a level 7 to go into a level 8. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work. So with this, you get to make Orient Dragon. Maxx also stops cards like Doom Caliber Knight, and if you're really desperate and so you have 4 cards in your graveyard and you need that 5th 4 pot of avarice, it does work like that as well. Maxx overall is versatile and it can be activated whenever it wants to be, including the end phase for some apparent reason if you really want to. So with that being said, YouTube, make your choice which one's better. I have these situations for very common plan plays. I didn't go in depth for anything else. But you decide whether which one's better, Maxx or Effect Veiler or both. Which ratio do you like better? 2 or 3, 2 and 2, 3 and 1. They're all hand traps. And also, last snippet, Maxx has very high synergy with Tragodia, one of my favorite cards. And Tragodia becomes a huge monster, becomes a boss monster and that sort, with Maxx available. Thank you, YouTube. This is I Am Nick Ma.